With the rumours coming out this week that Barcelona were interested in signing Arsene Wenger after sacking Valverde, it has created some interesting debate centred around the legacy of the man that is Arsene Wenger. I saw some people laughing at the idea of this man coaching Messi while others were getting the Kai jelly out in preparation for some premium Wenger ball. If he's doing well, nobody actually knows if he's pulling the strings or if he's just getting lucky. Like Ranieri. I said it. Sue me. If he's doing badly, there's endless discussions asking if the manager's past it, are his players just underperforming, or are we actually exposing him for the fraud he really is? I don't think any manager's legacy is debated as often as Arsene Wenger's, and today we're going to take a deep footballing dive into the history of the man to determine if he truly is underrated, as Arsenal fans would say, or if he's overrated, as Arsenal fans would say. So ladies and gentlemen, let's crack on. And so, we start from the beginning, because Wenger didn't actually come from footballing royalty. His parents owned a small automobile spare parts business, and as any true proper French family would, they owned a bistro on the side. Wenger became interested with football from a young age as his father coached the local village team. The literal French farmers league that everyone is always talking about. After a milk toast playing career where his peak was representing the French students team at the Students' World Cup. Is that a thing? Wenger was destined to take over the family business, but Arsene proved that you don't need to be a horse before you can be the jockey. And Mr. Wenger worked his way up to get his big break as manager of AS Nancy. He had limited success with the small club before being relegated to League 2. There's an Eddie Howe joke somewhere in here, I can't really figure it out. Arsene Wenger, however, still made a claim as a top quality manager, and title challengers Monaco signed him on. And so Wenger led Monaco to a League 1 title in his first season. And I can tell you, this was just the beginning, because he would go on to not really do anything else in the next 10 years at Monaco aside from a cup win. Although he did mentor future Ballon d'Or winner and Liberian president George Weah. Nice. Wenger then went to the hellhole of a football landscape that was 90s Japan at Nagoya City FC, where he won another league trophy and another cup in his first year. Wenger found some success at Monaco and Nagoya, but his name isn't Monac or Nagoya. So, his name's Arsene. So he went to Arsenal. And he finally set out to manage the club that he was always destined to manage. Now, to understand Wenger's influence, we also need to understand the football landscape in England in the 90s. See, before Wenger came, the only team that really had shown any consistency in the top flight of Premier League football had been Manchester United. Every year their title challenges always seemed to be whatever the flavour of the month was. Nottingham, Norwich, teams that, as well as I do, did not go on to build any sort of modern dynasty. The giants of the 80s, Liverpool and Arsenal, had been severely underperforming, and Blackburn won it in 95, but they finished 7th in 96. Enter Arsene Wenger. Football in the 90s also wasn't quite the slick professional setup we've all come to know as it is. For instance, players didn't know that it was a bad idea to down a quarter pounder and a pint at half time. But Wenger had this revolutionary idea that maybe professional sportsmen shouldn't have the same diet as domesticated pigs. The players didn't seem to take too well to this Frenchman coming in and telling them what they can and can't eat, but after a while they accepted that his ideas actually did contribute to their performances. You think, maybe? And Arsenal finished 3rd in his first season in charge. It's about to get spicy. It was only in the 97-98 season that Arsene truly began to shine. After a really tough start to the season, Arsenal were in 6th place at Christmas, but the fact that their players were a lot fitter and more professional than their title rivals allowed them to have a great second half of the season, where they finished with a league and a cup double. This proved to be the launchpad for an era of success for Arsenal, as they'd become one of the 2 best teams in the early 2000s. as they entered into a heated rivalry with Manchester United, where both teams would dominate the league one year after another. And during this period, these two teams were the only viable contenders. And so Wenger won another league title in 2002, but it was truly the 2003-2004 team that would become legends. Everyone knows about the Arsenal Invincible team that went unbeaten for an entire season. A lot of people gloss over this achievement by pointing out that other teams have gotten more points in a season. But honestly, going a season unbeaten in the Premier League is an insane achievement, as we have found out over the last couple of seasons. Especially this last season, where Liverpool bottled it against Watford. It seems like every year there'll be a team that managed to get to December unbeaten, and there'll be people hyping this team as possible invincibles, but people really don't recognize how incredible that achievement was. Arsenal's squad was filled with top class players and talismans, and yeah, you had Henry and Bergkamp connecting up front for delicious clean goals. But more importantly, the team had consummate professionals who played under a manager's vision, allowing them to be able to see out wins or draws in edgy games while keeping their nerve. The Invincibles team was filled with players that Wenger had nurtured and held onto, like Henry, Ashley Cole, Vieira, but within 3 seasons, none of these players were still at Arsenal, and this is where Arsenal's downfall truly begins. Wenger's model of nurturing average but promising players into the best in the world became more difficult to uphold as football began to shift in terms of how clubs were structured and what functions a manager actually had. The arrival of Mourinho and Abramovich to Chelsea initiated the new age of football, where in order for a club to be competitive, they had to splash the cash. This unfortunately coincided with Arsenal coming short financially because of the erection of their new stadium. I said erection. Year after year, it became a bit of a meme that all of Arsenal's best players would be sold to Man City or Chelsea, and their replacements would be no-name French teenagers. And generally, these teenagers would become quality players. However, the way Arsenal started becoming run was different to most other clubs. Other clubs were employing directors of footballs and heads of transfers. I often see people fundamentally misunderstanding how transfers are made. People have this perception that the manager makes bids and manages finances. I blame FIFA for this. However, Wenger was still overseeing most of this behind-the-scenes business at Arsenal and having a big say in what targets were worth it, and if he wanted them in his teams. This meant he didn't have to get the Brendan Rodgers treatment and have Mario Balotelli forced upon him, but this also meant he was doing way more work than all the other managers. Wenger's main issues, especially in the last couple of years, was that his teams would play some pretty football and get some total football goals with some nice passing, but they lacked that ugliness and grit to truly grind out the wins, particularly at the back. In the early years, Arsenal's defense was primarily made up of players like Tony Adams and Lee Dixon. In the 90s, Arsenal's intensity and work rate put them above other teams, and while they maintained these things, everyone else caught up, and more importantly, Arsenal lost their defensive prowess and their character. NANI? In the 2010s, Arsenal became known for getting blown out in big games and conceding a lot of goals if the opposition got their number. Tony Adams and Patrick Vieira would not be throwing away a 4-0 lead against Newcastle or lose 8-2 to Man United. Granted, they did lose to Man United 6-1 in 2001, but that was more of a blip on the radar more than it was a recurring nightmare Arsenal fans have become accustomed to living through. Arsenal eventually did begin to, although reluctantly, spend money on big transfers in order to keep up with other big clubs, but they didn't become a top team again, and I think it all comes back to Wenger. When Wenger first came to the Premier League, he revolutionized English football, and he was the exciting new kid on the block. He then managed at that level for so long that he became a relic of the past. Wenger wasn't accustomed to signing huge stars for big transfer fees and immediately challenging for the title. He was still in this mindset that he had to develop and nurture players to become legends, and then he could never quite master the concept of shoving finished products into his team. He wanted to make Henrys, He didn't want to buy Sanchez's. So I think Wenger's legacy sort of gets tarnished a bit by his later years. The man is undoubtedly a legendary manager, and his worst years aren't even that bad compared to managers like Mourinho and Ancelotti, but his failure to win things and maintain a mediocre consistency makes people, especially younger fans, believe he was nothing special. But I think Wenger deserves a lot more respect than he's given. So the jury's out on this one, and we say underrated. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please give the video a like and subscribe, but more importantly than anything, please comment below. Please comment below. I'd love to know what you guys think of Arsene Wenger and whether you guys think he is overrated, underrated. But if you guys want to have a long conversation about it, definitely do come join me on Twitch. I stream every single Tuesday, sometimes Sundays as well. And yeah, let's have a conversation about it. Jump into the chat, we have a good time. And until next time, Fick on. Including anime. Anime has this weird thing where the main character is usually so overpowered from day one. But in this regard, the main character is not like that. Far from it, and is having to figure out how to adapt all the time, having to figure out how to work their way around things. And in that regard, although they get powerful, they don't quite get to the strongest. Not to a point where you can look and go, yeah,